Ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we are live. This is the episode of the Pundits Pundit for today, October the 12th. I am your moderator, Denzel Snipes, and to the immediate right of me, or wherever she's looking, I don't know, is Jenna Cheryl, the professional fan. To the right of her, we all look like the mixed version of the Brady Bunch. It's kind of funny.
We kind of are.
Do you remember when Dom started that on the sip-off? And then he told me I freaking look like Alice? Yeah, Dom Drubus, I'm talking to you, telling me I look middle-aged.
No. This is the Brady Bunch that Robert Reed dreams of.
Yeah. And the one who said that is the creator of the show, the Pundits Pundit. And also we have Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth of the South Florida Tribune. And to his left, he just tuned in. He just popped in like literally 2 seconds before we went on the air. He is the host of sports.scoop.com. He's got his own blog. Jordan Long, welcome to the show, brother. Finally, you made it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Jordan Lucky. He's got a double header. Yeah. Jordan and Jacob have a double header tonight. My goodness, Jordan.
That is true. We do. Hey, you know what? I had a double header yesterday, so I'm good with this.
That's okay.
Nothing wrong with it.
I got some off-the-wall stuff for you, Jordan, my friend, but just relax. It's not that bad. It'll all be in good standing.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, before we get started, just want to remind everyone that we are sponsored by the Score No Score app on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. It's a fun app. You get a set amount of coins to begin with. It's like 400 coins. The rest of it, you kind of got to pay out of pocket. But what you do is you bet on plays. So you can bet on if, as of right now, they got football and baseball only. Sure, they're going to be adding some more sports soon. So you can bet on if Mahomes is going to throw an interception. You can bet on if Justin Fields is going to run 98 yards for a touchdown. You can bet on if the Astros is going to hit a game-winning home run. Oh, wait, that happened yesterday. That's right. But you can bet on plays. It's great. So please check it out. We are sponsored by the Score No Score app.
Jake, can we bet on how many times Jacob is going to go off topic?
No.
I don't know what you're going to take, but you probably win that one.
No. That number cannot that number can't go that high.
As long as we can bet it over under how many times he's going to mention Jordan Bird or Jacob DeGrom.
No.
Okay.
No. Jacob DeGrom will be gone.
All right, there's one.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's transition on into our first topic, and that is really curious to hear y'all's thoughts about this one. This is Joe Madden and the philosophical clash in baseball. Now, Jacob and Jordan know because we've talked about this man on Confidential, which, by the way, we had our season finale just last night. So go on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter on Sideline Sports, and please check that out. It was a great episode with a playoff preview. But never mind that. Anyway, we talked about this man quite a few times, and we've contrasted him to David Ross. And this man was responsible for bringing a championship to Northside Chicago. So the philosophical clash between the two. Jen, you want to start this one off? She's like, no.
I think Joe. I'm like, no, but I think Joe is kind of old school. He knows, and he's. I forgot who I was discussing it with. It was with one of you guys, to be honest with. Joe Moore has he knows how to take a team that's at least halfway there, right? And build from there. He's not, and take them to the World Series. Like we've seen it with the Red Sox. We've seen it with the Cubbies. We've seen it. Like we've seen it time and time again with his career. I think when the Angels let him go, it was an unfortunate time. No GMs were really on the hot seat. No managers. I don't know why I said GM. The managers were really on the hot seat at that point. Plus, it's got to be a good fit for both. Joe's got to feel comfortable with the team that he goes to. He's an older gentleman, and let's face facts. Like, look at the head coach of Syracuse. Like, he's not really going to change his philosophical ways. It's worked for him for 40 freaking years, so why would he, right?
This ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where Joe is. Because it's worked for him.
You can't argue that.
He has to evolve as a person.
Right.
And as a coach, like when I was swimming, I think I gave this example last week or the week before. My swim coach, Frankie Bell, created Melvin Stewart's signature butterfly so that it would stay in regulation with USA Swimming. And Melvin Stewart held the Olympic record and the world record until Michael Phelps and the 100 and 200 butterfly with his signature. And basically, when you're swimming butterfly, you go up to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
She created it so, like, when his arms were there or like underneath the water, he would go and breathe to the side because he couldn't get his body up, like his neck wasn't long enough or something. So she had to change her style of coaching to fit who was a world record holder. You've got to do that as a coach. As a person, we all have to grow and evolve. And that's where we are, I think. I think at the end of the day, it's baseball's baseball. Like, most of the basics of baseball haven't changed in how many years? Decades?
Yeah.
Almost a
And
century.
generations, yeah. I mean, I can most definitely see where you're coming from, because when you talk about how old school Joe Madden is, who comes to mind is Bill Belichick, and let me explain. The same philosophy that he has landed this man 8 Super Bowl rings, 2 as a defensive coordinator and 6 as a coach. Why in the hell would he change anything? Even when he faced the Rams for the second time in the Super Bowl just a few years back, you know, that was a defensive masterpiece. And everyone talked about, oh, well, this is the new look Rams offense, and it's going to and Bill Belichick shut it down. With Joe Madden, I mean, if it's worked for this long, why would he change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, I do also agree with your point. And at some point in time may catch up to him, and he may need to switch a few things up. But Jacob, let's bring it on to you. Your thoughts about this?
Main thing about where I got this title from and where I get this little topic, I was reading a thing on SI, and they were talking about the Joe Madden and why he was gone from the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happened with that was the fact that it got to a certain point where they were having a little bit of trouble. You know, they had about their 8 or 9 game losing streak or whatever. They were going through these whole situations. And it was around that time when they were like 4 over 500 or something and went to 4 under. But it still wasn't horrible yet, the record and everything. The GM decided to butt on in and say, I'm going to make your move. So he started calling down to the bullpen and saying things like, Mike Trout has played too much, take him out. It'd be like in the 5th inning. He would literally say things like that. It's like, this is basically the analytics. The reason I was bringing up the philosophical clash, he's the old school guy that wants to make his decisions, and the GM was going by analytics. He literally called down to the bullpen and said, not bullpen, but to the manager, and he said, take Trout out. It's like the 5th inning.
Mm-hmm.
He played too much this week. And it's like those things. And it's like, at some point, it's like analytics have gotten too far. They've gone way too far. And it's like when you're saying, oh, take Mike Trout out, the guy who hit 40 home runs in 120 games this year. And we have a big situation where, okay, I really believe in a certain way. I'm going to believe it also. We have PFF there, which I think is the drudge of all of football.
Pro Football Focus. I've called for a revision of that board for years.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Yes, I could not stand them. And it's like see the problem with it. Like, okay, I'm going to go off topic here, Jen. So we go.
There's one.
Jay, let's make a ticker.
But
You want me to make a ticker real quick?
But
I got it. Go ahead.
All right.
But no, we one of the things we have an issue with is the fact that it's like when you go to football and it's like and you're at the 1 yard line and then you see people passing there.
Oh, geez. Bring up the Denver Broncos, why don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've been doing
or
that.
They're passing at the one line. I know what you're saying. Or like the Super Bowl when you had Marshawn Lynch. You have those things, and that's analytics. When you had Matt Nagy and he pitched it, Matt Rule, and they pitch it 4 yards back in his 3rd inches. And
by the way, he went back to school.
Right, and it's like it's those things. Well, that is where it's going with baseball. It's like take Trout out. He's in the 5th inning and he's played too much this week. It's like The guy with 40 home, 1 out of 3 games. What in the world is that?
That was me. Go ahead.
That was odd.
1 out of 3
I need to work on my laugh.
that he hits a home run, and you're telling him to take him out because he might get hurt. But these are the philosophical clashes, and it's also why the baseball's having trouble. I told you yesterday about the team, I don't know if you heard it, Jen, but the Braves. I was watching the Braves game, watching all that. Remember, I said, the Major League Baseball by itself, it just acts old.
Yeah,
it just acts old. It does. Analytics and taking one of your 2 stars out in the 5th inning isn't saving baseball.
No.
and that's a stupid reason to fire a coach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then he went. Matt ripped him apart. Matt ripped him apart for it, and he fired him about 6 days later.
No, it's actually 28 days later.
28 days later. Okay.
Yeah, I actually read that. Let me add a little bit of input to that whole thing. All right. I
bet.
like to watch you guys go back and forth. Here's the deal. I know a little bit more about the Angels' inner workings because I have contacts there as well. I have everywhere. But here's what you've got there. You have a dysfunctional situation anyhow. You don't know whether or not Shohei Ohtani will be back after next year. He's got a 1 year, $30 million to avoid arbitration. We're not sure how the Trout thing is going to work out. But yeah, you guys are on track, okay, about the analytics part. Remember when the Cleveland Browns tried to hire Sashi Brown and brought him over there, and as a result, you try to take analytics and build it. There's no way you can do that. And I go back to the age when Billy Martin was managing, as well as a lot of other guys. These guys would never survive in today's climate. But it was 28 days. The Angels have been a very dysfunctional organization. Remember, the guy, Pay, just got sentenced to 22 years in jail because of the Tyler Skaggs situation that finally came in there.
Michael K.
But hear me out. Yeah, but so hear me out, okay? What you've got is dysfunction all the way around. From if a general manager is going to walk into your situation and tell you what to do, nobody in their right mind would even go ahead and agree to it. Why did they name the regular manager? Was it Phil Nevin? Because he did a decent job finishing the year, but who would take that job? You have Artie Moreno's about ready to try to sell the club anyways. So, I don't know if you heard that or not, but yeah, he's trying to sell the ball club. So now
he's a terrible owner. He needs to know he's a terrible owner.
Terrible owner or not, nevertheless, you're talking about a franchise in flux, Jacob, is what you're doing. Now, the best
do you
thing
think they would be the ones moving to? Well, never mind. It's an expansion team. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, that's all right. So you've got a franchise in flux. You have superstar players. Hey, listen, I saw him play the Marlins, and the Angels are a great traveling show. One of the Marlins' biggest attendance happened to be with Shohei Ohtani. There was unbelievable. It actually looked like a real baseball game when they put people in the stands over at Lone Depot Park. We don't see a lot of it. That's a luxury for us in these parks. And it really, really is. So to make a long story short, sorry, Jacob, okay, is this. Joe Madden has won in Tampa. He won with the Cubs, and he did it without any interference. You start having a individual like this with interference. What about Brody Van Wagenen and whatever with the Mets? That was a mess too. You got general managers that are constantly meddling, and that's a recipe for disaster. And Joe Madden was smart. Let me get out of there, enjoy the summer. When people leave the Miami Marlins managers, they get hired again. They understand the situation they're in. Joe Madden, the smartest thing he could do was take the rest of the summer off. That general manager did him a favor, getting him out there, refresh his battery, and get ready to go next year. That's all.
Oh no! One of the issues though is that you brought this up about Billy Martin. You brought this up. Billy Martin, Mister, I probably had a beer in the dugout or 5. Yeah, you want to go to Billy Martin and call him down there? I mean, George Steinbrenner didn't do that to him, and George Steinbrenner fired him 6 times. It's like,
wow.
How do you know?
Yeah, like it was comical. Like they were making fun of it on Seinfeld.
Let me ask you a question.
They'd be filming on ads.
How do you know that Billy Martin wasn't questioned with strategy with George Steinbrenner? Are you speculating there? Because I actually
but I'm saying, by the way, because no one was ever taken out, but he'd just fire him. He'd fire him after the game.
All right, well, but George Steinbrenner did a lot of things. He was of all the interviews I've done in 40 years, George Steinbrenner was one of the most interesting ones I've ever had.
Sure.
I'll never forget the time I'm at Fort Lauderdale Stadium. Okay. I'm asking him the easy questions about the farm system, the team, blah, blah, blah. Beautiful interview. And then I get to the manager's question, and he wasn't so happy with me with that one. Cut the interview.
Wow.
What he did. But here's the moral of the story. George Steinbrenner, whether you're young or old, treated everybody the same way, because here's the thing. When Ted Koppel of ABC News Nightline had him on, he got as bad of a beating as I did. So if I'm going to be mentioned in the same breath as Ted Koppel, I'll take it from the boss because he gave it to me anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you know that Steinbrenner didn't have anything to do with telling Billy beer or no beer? I know we don't have any beer sponsors here, but that was a different situation. And you know what? Every time he rehired Billy, he gave him a raise anyways, so it doesn't make any difference.
Well, he held him back in the front office. He was paying him anyway. He'd take a deep breath. Someone would stink, and he'd bring him back.
Well, I'm sorry. We got to actually. Jordan's been patiently waiting to, and then we do got to move on to the next topic. Jordan, your thoughts on this real quick.
Okay. I will say to Jacob's point, analytics is now a part of the game. We have to, people end up, general managers are looking for people who want to do analytics. I've seen it all the time with, the Colorado Rockies. The thing about it is like you guys were saying, analytics are just numbers. They don't mean a whole lot. You do have to have a manager like a Joe Madden who knows the game from, being a manager. Analytics, we can sit here and talk about analytics all day, but
analytics in sports,
exactly,
analytics in numbers in banking and finance, that's needed. But analytics in sports, numbers change. That's why it's called betting.
Exactly. And that's why, I go to Joe Madden and he's an old school guy. I want an old school guy. I don't want the analytic guy. But the thing about his situation is he had Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and what has he done? They didn't win. So I understand why they got rid of him. But in general, you can't go with the analytics side, especially if the general manager wants to do that. You just can't.
But Jacob,
and
either, so you got to remember that too. He had no pitching out with the Angels. Their Achilles heel was they never had pitching anyway. So you can score all you want to, but in the end, if you have insufficient pitching, you're not going to win anyways. But I understand the move, and Joe's better off because of that.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to move on to the next topic. I will say, just to close this one out, is on another sports show just earlier this week, and no truer words have been spoken. He said, "Analytics will get you fired."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So moving on, and I'm gonna go a little out of order. Jen, forgive me for this, but I just had to cover this one real. So this one right here has always been, and I've waited to get on camera to talk about this. This is East Coast, West Coast media bias.
I hate it.
There's certain, I'm not going to say any names. We know who they are. But seemingly the favorites, we know you will. Seemingly the favorites in the media darlings, USC, the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Knicks. If these teams can't do no wrong, and for whatever reason, maybe because, it's New York City and LA. Okay, I get it. Whatever. You know what I mean? But there has just been a bias. And I mean a ridiculous bias for generations towards these entities, toward these coasts. It's almost like, Midwest and South doesn't exist. How dare a Southern team win the Super Bowl? How dare a Midwest team, win the World Series and such? I have seen it with my own eyes and read with my own eyes through article. We've seen it. If a team from the South, for example, beats the Lakers, they will talk all segment about what the Lakers didn't do instead of what the Southern team did. And it's just over. I mean, the only Southern team that's getting just as much coverage is the Dallas Cowboys because they're the Dallas Cowboys. But outside of that, yeah. I mean, the Saints could go 8-0. They're going to find a way to talk about the Rams. They're going to find a way to talk about the Chargers. They're going to find a way to talk about the Giants or the Jets or the Patriots or whoever. I've seen it to where my Texans have beaten the Patriots. They talked about everything Tom Brady didn't do instead of everything Deshaun Watson did. So, I mean, I'm curious to get your
15-1, and my quarterback was still getting grief over his damn hair.
Exactly. So I'm going to go in reverse order here because Jordan waited for like 2 days to go last time. I'm going to go in reverse order.
This is his jam also.
And this is jam too. So we're going to go Jordan, Scott, Jacob, and then Jen. So go ahead and kick us off, Jordan.
I really hate the East-West Coast bias. There's a reason why I do not listen to the national media or watch, the four-letter network, because it's all, what is it about? You just hit it on the head. It's all about the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, those teams. And when the Broncos beat, the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game, in 2015, it was all about, New England didn't do this. This is what happened. Or even when the Avs went to the Stanley Cup, it was all, Tampa Bay's going to win. There's a reason why I don't listen to those shows anymore, because I got sick of the East and West Coast bias. They don't talk about the Midwest. And it's because where's ESPN? It's in Bristol, Connecticut, even though now I said it. Or where's the other one? It's in LA. So that's where they're located. But there's a reason why I listen to local guys to get our local perspective than national guys, because they do not talk about it. That's why I love Tom Jackson when he was with the four-letter network, because he talked about the Broncos, or Woody Page on Around the Horn, because he talks about our teams. Otherwise, we don't get much coverage unless we win the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup. And even then, it's like, this is what the other team did wrong, not anything about us. It's just, if you're going to do that, you got to be biased one way, not biased in the East or the West, but at least talk about these teams like the Texans, the Broncos, the Carolina Panthers. I hardly ever hear anything about the Carolina Panthers because of it.
Scott, on to you.
Well, I got to tell you, being a Midwest guy, because I am by trade, even though I live in the South, nobody cares about Miami anyway, so it doesn't matter. So we don't have a Southeast bias, but unless you're talking about the Heat, and then Florida Panthers, forget about them. But here's the thing: the Detroit Red Wings went to the Stanley Cup playoffs, I think, like 25, 26 years in a row. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We had to play on the West Coast. We were in the Western Conference, and we traveled a lot. But with some of these shows that they had on ESPN, there wasn't a lot of East Coast representation. Mitch Albom was probably the closest thing we had to it. Rob Parker was for a while when he was there, but other than that, didn't have a whole heck of a lot. And I agree. I mean, let's face it, we all know the Lakers and the Cowboys are certainly what draws you in. But you know what? I've been in this business for as long as I have. And, sometimes I have a hard time listening to too much local stuff because it's too tilted. So I've learned, being a national guy with a little bit of local involved, to be more objective and neutral, to try to be able to look at everything. But let's face the reality. Some of these networks play their favorites. We know ESPN does it, okay? And that's why I don't watch a lot of their shows. There's only like one or two shows I even bother to watch. And the only reason I even bother to watch is if I can get any journalistic student knowledge to make myself better. It isn't content, but how you deliver it. So, yeah, it's been that years, so there's really not a whole lot you can do to change from it. The glamour teams are going to have the glamour teams, and the other ones aren't. But like Jordan said, it's not fair. But how do you think you're going to change it after so many years anyways? Truth of the matter is, either you accept it or you don't. And me, I never thought I'd say this to a lot of people, because but here's the deal. When I go to a game these days, and I'm talking about these days, okay, do you really think I care who wins or loses a stupid thing? I'll ask each and every one of you. Jennifer, do you think I care who wins? Yes or no?
No, you just want to go good ball.
What about you, Jacob?
Oh, of course not.
What about you, Jordan?
Nope.
You know why I don't care? And what about you, Denzel?
Unless the Lions go 17-0, no.
No. You know why I don't care? You know why I don't care who wins? I'm only concerned about two things. Number one, getting more guests on my shows. Two, getting YouTube subscribers and building the brand. Now I really don't frankly care. Give me as much as I can to benefit the network. I've done it all anyways, or at least done a lot, and it doesn't matter. Take the result out of the equation, and the only one that wins here is us, like you guys, okay?
True.
And that's what you have to draw from the whole thing. But you know what, Jordan? you guys, I'm glad you brought the topic up because here's the deal. I've lived on the West Coast in Phoenix for 2.5 years. And when you wake up earlier in the morning, even when it was daylight savings times, we're 3 hours behind. If I'm waking up at 7, especially when it's 3 hours behind, I'm calling you guys at 10 o'clock. No big deal. And I didn't even have sleep apnea back then. I was an animal even on the West Coast. Now here on the East Coast, I have sides on both sides. But the situation when you judge, it's always been that way anyway. So what's the point in complaining about it? It's okay to talk about it because I understand why you did. It's a topic which is blue in 3 years. You got the Boston Celtics. You're going to talk about them, right? They're one of those won a lot of championships, right? Red Wings to me remind me of the Rodney Dangerfield of pro sports because they never got respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you look at the Detroit Red Wings, they've won more Stanley Cups than any American-based team with 11. Think about it. How much respect do you think they got? Not a whole hell of a lot.
It's Detroit.
Right. Well, that's true. Everybody said, I'll give you every reason why we don't want to go. Of course, if you're Mike Ilitch and you're an original 16, we'll show up there anyways. I don't care if it's bad weather, ice or not. You're an original 16. But don't tell that about the Lions, the Tigers, and the Pistons.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. You know what? It's I'm glad you actually brought, up one aspect because, there was one phrase that we used to say back in the military. One of the worst things that people can say is that's the way things have always been. Because if it's something bad, it exudes laziness and unwillingness to change it. And unwillingness to change, And I'm going to bring up an example, and then I'm going to swing it to Jacob and then lead him off with a question. So I can recall back before the 2006 Rose Bowl between the Longhorns and the Trojans. And I can remember them spending, and I mean about 95% of the holiday season talking all about USC and nearly nothing about Texas on the air. That USC was the best offense in history when they didn't even lead the nation in points scored that season. Texas did. Texas went on to win that game. Now, Jacob, swinging it on over to you. Now, they kind of have had no choice because it's clear West Coast bias. They kind of had no choice but to pay attention to Alabama because of their dominance. But as soon as USC becomes relevant again, even though Alabama has Nick Saban, as soon as USC becomes relevant again, do you think that tide switches?
Oh, good God, it already is. You got ridiculous Paul Feinbaum. I mean, that bald bastard. That ridiculous. I mean, he tries to find every way every single year to try to say, oh my God, they're going to lose. They're going to get this. Oh my God, they're facing. I can't see them getting through this 3 games. I can't see this. The biggest thing about it is the fact that it just feels like that they want a USC or hell, an East Coast. But you want to know the good example, the Braves. Because when the Braves were, the majority of everything was, it was ESPN rooting against them because of the tomahawk chop. Then they finally won, and then the one good thing they bring up with the Braves is that they have 9 players hooked until between 2027 and 2034. 2032, excuse me. They brought that up, that they're all hooked there. They brought that up. But it is like they cannot stand, especially with Keith Olbermann. It's why I brought the Keith Olbermann thing on Twitter yesterday. It's like everybody brings up the tomahawk chop. Everybody. And then everybody's griping and whining about it. And it's like that's the reason they want to have the hate. You know why the Cubs got so much deal? Because they finally broke 108 years. But that's still Midwest, and there will be hate there soon. They'll be the minute they get good. They're not nothing right now. Here's the thing about the NFL, though. The NFL, they have done a phenomenal job. Maybe they like to see with the Giants and Jets. The reason they don't talk much about that is because the Giants and Jets suck. And the Rams don't have fans.
The Giants are having a blowout year, so I wouldn't really say that this year.
No. They're getting better. But
New Jersey's getting a little better.
Yeah,
New Jersey, there you go. Yeah, they are in New Jersey.
But I'm saying the Rams just don't have fans. But what I was saying, you're right on that. But what I was bringing, though, is the past has been the Jets and Giants have been horrible, so you can talk. But a lot of people will always say it is, and I talked to them from all types of fans and everything like that. Right now, the Bears are awful. But if they love it when the Bears and Packers are both good. They're not.
Yeah.
but they like the way that the NFL has done a phenomenal job making every region important.
That is actually true.
Yeah, it's like because look how much got. I mean, when Denver won their Super Bowl with Manning, they got a lot. Guess what? The Denver Nuggets will not.
Sorry, Jordan. It just still makes me mad. The Manning announced during media week. As soon as he announced, I looked at my husband and I was like, "We just lost the Super Bowl."
You know what, Jake? You do make a lot of valid points there. You really do. The NFL does a good job, obviously, balancing it where other sports are biased. Remember, years ago in the NBA, this is probably a more basketball type of topic. But when you think about a couple aspects, okay, number one, they only had the 76ers, the Celtics, and 2 or 3 other teams on until that. And then, of course, back in the tape delay game too on CBS, and then all of a sudden they opened it up. So that's food for thought as well. And now, obviously, there's more balance to validate your point about the NFL. Every region is important.
Pop quiz, and I bet Scott is actually the only one who will know this. But what was the very first televised basketball team or game?
Televised.
Was it Fort Wayne?
I would guess UCLA, but I have no idea.
Were the Knicks involved?
You talk about the NBA?
Who was it?
No, Minneapolis.
The very first televised basketball game was Duke versus Carolina.
It
That
sure
makes
was.
sense.
It sure
And
was.
just he was coaching.
That's basketball overall. Yeah.
Coming from the media page, what do you expect?
And ironically, the first 3-point shot took place in North Carolina too.
North Carolina.
At Western Carolina. So
Yeah.
North Carolina's rich in basketball.
The funny part about the college basketball aspect of it is the last team from the Northeast, from the East Coast, around the same region where they have the bias, the last team from the Northeast to win it all was Penn State in 1986.
Huh? I didn't know.
If they were from out east, they were from the Southeast. That was Miami. That was Clemson. That was Florida State.
Yeah.
That was Georgia.
Chapel
that
Hill,
was
2023.
Auburn. That was ironically, ironically, they beat Miami. But
Do you realize? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, man.
Do you realize? I mean, when you're talking about this, you realize how much the media wants the SEC to completely fall because they are going.
It's not the SEC they want to fall, honey.
Yeah.
SEC football brings in more money.
Yeah, I understand that. But
SEC is the football powerhouse. They don't want them to fall.
The way that the media trying to get Alabama gone,
I can see where
Paul Feinbaum, the way they get this, guess what? The B1G, they're talking like crazy. It's because they're going to bring the West Coast teams in.
Yeah. So I'm hearing.
Also, and I think to Jen's point, I think to Jen's point, the Southeastern Conference is bringing in the most money, but they want so bad for it to be the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. They want so bad for it to be the Pacific 12.
That's true.
Do you want to hear what I think?
And unfortunately, I think the Pac-12 is it's disbanding right now.
You know what?
That's
Denzel?
Exactly right.
I do disagree with you.
I see Oregon coming to the ACC.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I do disagree with you. The Big Ten's got more money than the SEC will ever have. And
they do now, yes.
Yeah, and they always will. Why do you think?
Not a Big Ten, yes.
Here, you got me onto something. Good. We'll jazz this bad boy up here. Okay. You're bringing in the LA schools is the next move. The next domino to drop. Yes. I know you might be getting off the topic a little bit, but, this is Pundits Pundit, so we have a little bit of wiggle room here, at least I hope. Anyways, Notre Dame will probably be the next domino to drop. Okay. And if that isn't good enough, okay, because of the heat that.
But where will Notre Dame go? Because their basketball program is ACC.
They're going to go Big Ten down the road. Jen. My sources tell me that my sources are telling me that down the road when their NBC contract, when they're ready and they can take the plunge to the Big Ten, they're headed there. Right now, Penn State and Nebraska ate humble pie doing it. Notre Dame's a little nervous. Okay, so then here's the next domino to drop. Do you want Oregon and Washington? Maybe, because you got Phil Nike money, you got Seattle. And now the governor of California, you got Stanford and Cal, because they're state schools, or at least one of them is. So you could see as many as 4 to 6 teams, at least 4 out west, and Notre Dame. And I've even heard talk about Miami and Florida State if the SEC doesn't get. Let me tell you, you want to talk about super conferences, the Big Ten is the first conference that introduced replay, and then everybody followed. Okay. And why do you think the Big Ten's TV contract is amongst the three networks, and then ESPN got booted? So you want to talk about a cash cow and their commissioner? The Big Ten will, I don't care, Paul Feinbaum's the mouth of the South, okay? Big deal. When I was working in North Carolina, back in your neck of the woods, I had to know that they called me the mouth of the South long before Paul Feinbaum was there, but that's another day for another.
Hell, Jimmy Hart was mouth of the South before that.
Well, I will say that's to Scott's point.
I trademarked Motor City Mad Mouth, but that's beside the point. But the Big Ten, Denzel and the rest of you guys, is big cash cow. Forget about the SEC. The SEC is a big money cow wannabe. But no,
and it just may be a cash cow. It just may be. But look where the majority of schools are at. The Midwest.
Right.
They wish for it to be the Pacific 12. They wish for it to be California. They wish for it to be the West. Because again,
and look
West
where the
Coast
oldest
pride.
schools are.
Well,
Look where the oldest schools in America are. Original 13, baby.
Why do you think they added
Stanford is the
Rutgers?
one exception.
Why do you think they added Rutgers in Maryland? They wanted Washington, D.C. and New York. Now you go for Shining Sea, right? I won't break you guys about the song I had growing up, This Land Is Your Land, because you need a Memorex there to go ahead and deal with this. But
I know about that. What you got 3, I know.
Yeah, the bottom line is you got, who the heck wanted Rutgers in there? New York, okay? What about Maryland, Washington, D.C.? Oh, let's go to California next. And if we're lucky, we'll get Indiana. And we'll get... Come on, it's all there, man.
You want an unpopular take?
What's
up?
Oregon and Arizona will come to ACC.
I don't think that's happening.
No.
Well, I can see it.
No.
I really wish, honestly,
it's not going to be immediate, but watch.
For the,
I can see it.
I can see it. No, but here's
Thank you, Jacob.
But then where does Colorado go?
What but I could absolutely see it. But you talked about Notre Dame.
They create their own college.
Let me tell you this.
They really should have stayed in the Big 12, if you ask me.
If Notre Dame leaves NBC, I will be proud of them to take the guts to get off that network. They are now on freaking Peacock. They don't get most of their games. Right. They are ridiculous. They are living off of 1988.
Everything is going to go to Peacock.
No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying though is that stupid thing was 1988 when they got that first deal. That's when that was the first team to get their own little deal. That was fun. It was great. But they're living off 1988 like the Bears live off 1985.
Do you know what?
They need to go get out of the independence, and they need to think big.
They love the special rules. They love the special treatment.
Scott, I'm sorry for this advance, but do you want to know why I don't think like the Big Ten's going to get a ton more in the future?
Why?
MSU hasn't done enough to clean up their image.
Look at the schools there. They got Nebraska. Yeah. I mean, they've got the.
No, I'm saying MSU because, like, honestly, MSU's still tainted.
Well, they still have Michigan.
They have not publicly apologized. They have not made reprimands. And that is actually a story very near and dear to my heart. I
remember what happened there.
I told Jay what happened. I think I told Jacob too.
About it.
But
I did before we move on. I did want to ask out one more honest question, just from your perspective, okay?
Okay.
Because you mentioned Maryland and Rutgers going to the ACC. They wanted to attract New York and DC. But we all know that as schools, they really ain't making any noise. So who do you think would bring in more money? Rutgers and Maryland or USC and UCLA?
Oh,
well, that's an easy one. Come on, you're asking me that question, really?
It's a very easy answer.
I'm glad I got my second win for this show here. Then again, I don't miss these anyways because they're gold anyways. Come on, man. You got USC and UCLA. These teams are getting better at the right time. And if you look at those records lately, Chip Kelly's looking good, and Lincoln Riley looks even better. Come on,
even better than he did in Oklahoma. Yes, but I say that, and this is just my point is with UCLA and USC moving to the Big Ten, that's going to pay off more than if Rutgers and Maryland did, and that's going to add more. It's going to give ESPN and everybody else something to talk about again, because at the end of the day, they want California to stay relevant.
Right, but here's the one thing you don't know, and I'm telling you right now, okay, and that's this, Okay, UCLA's athletic department is broke. You know why they're broke? Because a pandemic killed them. And that's what motivated this move to go to the Big Ten. And let me tell you, BROKE, broke, okay?
I thought you were going to say BR549. Like, I
is that how they used to do it on the old rotary phones? But they're broke. That's why they got those LA schools. Now, I think if you're looking for ESPN's not so top 20 plays.
UCLA is broke? Like athletic department's broke?
You better believe it, Jennifer.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So hear this, okay? Oh, yeah, Jen, you'd be surprised all my sources. Not you should surprise you anymore. And I read a lot of this stuff. That's why my eyes are going to hell. But the reality is they are broke. And that's what motivated these decisions to move a little bit quicker. So, again, I had an opportunity, when I was in Alabama, and this is one thing I'm going to do down the road. I got a couple of questions in for Bruce Pearl before the Talladega race. And he's the most interesting character. I'm going to get to Auburn and get in front of this guy and really pick his brain because Bruce Pearl hates the NCAA. Why am I?
Wow.
Everybody
of course he does.
Yeah, but listen, again, I had a couple minutes with him, and the PR guy wanted 2 questions because he knows I'll go off. And they got other people there. Of course, now I got to deal with him next week. He's a great guy. But my point is anytime you're dealing with this thing, and getting back to this, if the ESPN's looking for the top 10 plays, don't worry. When USC and UCLA are going into Ann Arbor, Columbus, and these guys are slide in the rain or the snow and the ice, then you're going to have a problem because they're used to putting in the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl, or not the Orange Bowl, but unless it's
the Coliseum,
So when you see UCLA and USC playing in Ann Arbor, Michigan State, Nebraska, and all these places, okay, then we're going to see that ESPN's only benefit from the Big Ten is the plays that you're going to see when backside hurts after a slipping situation.
Before we go to the thing, I want to bring this here. Before we go on to this, take a look at the bowl games. Look at the times of the bowl games now.
After you're done, I had a comment to make.
No. Look at the times of the bowl games now. Look at every single time you see Florida versus Iowa. It's like December 30th now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like they used to put it on They used to put it on January 1st just because it was bigger city, bigger name, bigger everything.
Right.
That's a December 30th bowl game now, and it's like they are saving everything up for the bowl championship. Not the bowl championship series, but the playoffs.
Playoffs.
They are saving everything up for that. I mean, there are some big cities on December 27th. There are some big schools on December 27th now, and those are supposed to be. And I'm just saying, it is such a different time now. The East Coast West Coast bias is even bigger.
Well, can you imagine if USC represents a Big Ten in the Rose Bowl? Who are you going to have on the other back end? A Big Ten in the Rose Bowl, USC. Go ahead and paint that picture out.
USC versus UCLA.
Huh?
USC versus UCLA.
Yeah, right.
Which is why the Rose Bowl was essentially created to begin with.
USC
for more interstate, like inter-California. It was supposed to be an inter-California university. I'm saying that all wonky, and I'm sorry. Jay, you can translate if you want, or Jordan.
There's our next topic on Pundits Pundit. Okay.
What?
There's your next topic. USC representing the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl.
But USC is why it was really created, because they wanted to have a bowl between USC and a couple of other California schools. However, unfortunately for them, do you know the other school that was the first school to play in the Rose Bowl?
Who was that?
Scott knows.
I don't even have a guess.
I'm
Colorado.
Scott, you're wearing the hat.
I wish.
You're literally wearing the hat.
Yeah, the Wolverines played.
Oh.
I've been there a million times.
Yeah. It was USC versus
Wolverines. Lost a million times.
But that's why the Rose Bowl gets more West Coast bias. However, I will say, I do think some of that has subsided a little bit, and UCLA is also broke, not just because of the pandemic, Scott, but honestly, they hadn't won a championship and had to relieve themselves of so many. I forgot how many NCAA championships because they were cheating. And so, I mean, they were out of the blue bloods for so long that it's taken this long for them to climb back kind of in.
No,
the Big
UCLA
12
is
is
known for
essentially
basketball championship.
yeah. Well, the
Good job.
Yeah, I'm
Pac-12
talking about
period,
basketball.
The Pacific 12 as a conference in all sports is the winningest conference in the land. So you can kind of see why the Big Ten is kind of picking from that well. Also, before we move on to the next topic, Arizona is the only team in the Pac-12 to not have a Rose Bowl appearance.
I do remember.
Really?
And it will never
Wait.
stay that. It will stay
Jordan,
that
get
way
on
too.
that.
It will stay that way too.
Are you sure? I can't remember Colorado being in the Rose Bowl.
I bet they were. I bet they were.
Yes, they were.
Well, they're new. That's why they've been out. Of
Yeah. If you talk, yeah. I mean, definitely the old Pac-10, but I think Colorado did make a Rose Bowl though.
We
I'm
might
look
have,
that
I'm
up.
but
Googling it.
I have to look that up. But no, we do need to move on. We spent a lot of time on this topic, and rightfully so. But
Great.
this one right here, we're gonna kind of
Yes,
well,
Jordan.
we'll
It is
never-
the only
I'll call
bowl
him on the
game they
show,
have ever
whatever.
been in. Gotta love
athletes in the need for relaxation.
our history's so bad. We're what the least best team in the college
Well, you
football
have
right
Cordell
now?
Stewart. You
Yeah,
have Cordell
that's-
I mean, you can take
And
Roll
Eric
if you
Bieniemy.
want.
That's what we're known for is Cordell Stewart and Eric Bieniemy.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
Oh, and
this-
Jordan, leave Christian alone.
then there-
He's
and then
staying
there-
with
and
me.
then
You
there's,
cannot
Eric
have him.
Trans. Hey,
We
and
may
then
have to
there's
get
Eric
it.
No,
Trans.
We'll get into that on my show.
right,
no,
but-
no.
Right, but guys, we got to get on to this next topic. Athletes in the need for relaxation. So, I was trying to kind of see, I guess, what angle y'all were going as far as either right before a game or even just in between games. There are athletes have shared their methods of relaxing before a game. They listen to certain playlists on their headphones and whatnot, different music. But also, and we had to talk about those that like to play ping pong, some that just like to take vacations, as far as in between. But your thoughts, we'll start with Jen. But your thoughts on athletes and the need for relaxation, because whenever you get, because all we see is
Your audio's getting broken.
the
up a little
games on
bit, or is that
TV
mine?
and maybe like
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
can you hear me? Okay. So all we see are just the games on TV and then post-game interviews, and then we might catch a commercial, but Baker Mayfield or something. Sorry, Jen. But
He's out for
but
4 to 6
what
weeks.
we
I don't care.
what we don't see is the time in the weight room, the film study, the practices and whatnot. So literally, it's become their whole lives. Daily these guys during the week are waking up at like 4 and 5 in the morning, and they're going until like 8, 9 at night. Even those who choose to stay after and shoot a couple more balls or throw a few more routes. But as far as the need for relaxation, your thoughts on that, Jen?
Listen, everybody needs it. Studies have come out and proven that even in an office space, your most productive office spaces have little game rooms. My old boss, when I first came back to Wells Fargo, put in like a basketball goal, like not like a real one, but like one of those like game store, like when you go to an arcade and the game one. He put in one of those, and that was awesome. We were the only department who did. We'd have other floors coming up to our floor to use it. People have to do something to get their mind off of their job. Like, you can't just think NFL all the time. You can't just think NBA all the time. You need 10 to 15 minute break, and that's where we are. I'm fine with it. I know like a couple of teams have taken them out. I actually understood the reasoning why, because too many people were paying attention to ping pong and or darts and not enough to the playbook, and the results were showing on the field. So I understood they were grounded, right? So they're restricted from playing. But get your grades up, kids. You need that break. You need that mental break. I'm all for it. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like with anyone else that's working a regular job. Too much of it will stress you out, and we always talk so much about mental health not only amongst athletes but amongst everybody else. It's important because I've always felt like if you're not right up here, then you're no good to nobody. But let's pass it on to Jacob. Your thoughts on athletes and the need for relaxation.
Well, one of the things that I brought this in today. I just saw that Miami was taking out their ping pong tables to Miami Dolphins, so they could focus. They're saying they could focus on the game plan a little deeper. And all I think about was first thing I think about all the time was Peyton Manning. And I'm just going to say this: Peyton Manning was the most obsessed person that we've ever seen in our life when it came to game planning, when it came to everything, when it came to looking at video, ridiculous. And then the biggest and the thing I think about with that is until he got that Super Bowl with Indianapolis against Chicago, you know what I mean? And until he got that, he was known as 41-0 against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
He was known as that, like 145 yards, 4 picks. And this is a guy who's obsessed with learning and knowing. You can lock yourself up by doing that, overdoing it. You can lock yourself up bad. I think of why, and we're gonna bring this up again. Thank you. The number one, Michael Jordan. The reason we,
do you want to, Jay, or do you want me to do it?
But we bring this. No, we bring this up. The reason he. The absolute reason why he was one of the great. I'm just saying, the reason he got one of the greatest of all time is one of those, and I really believe this is because he took 2 retirements.
Peyton?
He took 2 retirements, and he didn't go, and he is so completely and utterly obsessed that he wore himself out completely. The first time around, we're probably looking at gambling, but it still gave him a rest. But
wait,
the second time,
I didn't think he retired. I thought he left to go get stem cells in Europe, like Switzerland or Sweden.
Well, but I'm just saying, but it gave him a rest. It gave him a rest because this guy was so
because he was still on payroll with the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't retired.
Yeah. But no,
right, and then they cut him.
I was talking about MJ for a second on that, but
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, MJ was gambling all the way.
Oh yeah,
he was asked to retire.
It was still such an obsession, and he needed the rest, even if it was baseball. There was such a rest. It's like so uniquely obsessed, and it's like and by the way, put 1 to 1. By the way, I'm about to mention Bird. but no.
We need the off-topic one too.
Yeah, it's like, but no. Here was the thing about this. I believe that he was better off the way he was is because he fished on his days off.
MJ?
He was playing golf and he was fishing and he was all that kind of stuff. And it was like, even though he was obsessed with being able to win, he took a break. And
and no. He redirected his competitive nature.
Sure.
There is no athlete on earth, including Michael Phelps, is as competitive as Michael Jordan.
That's true. You're correct on that. I'm just bringing up though that there has to be a certain level of decompression.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. There does. Totally agree.
Whether it is fishing, like I brought up, golf. It's like, and when I was bringing up golf, I know what you were saying on that. I was just bringing up Bird with the golf.
No, I was thinking of fishing too.
Yeah, but it's like, but you need a certain level
competitive fishing's a thing.
Yeah, you need a certain level of decompression on things. I give LeBron James credit on things. He did know how to decompress. I'm sorry, I have to.
Yeah, he does know how to decompress. I will agree with you on that.
Yeah, he knows how to decompress. He knows how to do that. And that's why why he's 19 years and no future and no injuries and no real serious injuries. It's because he does watch his body. He puts $1 million into his body.
Not bring up LeBron with me, please, because we're on a show. I can't say what I want to call him.
I feel the same way as you.
There's one thing you guys are missing about Jordan.
JB and Eric.
There's one thing that you guys are missing about Jordan, though. His father was killed also, and he needed time to really.
That's true.
And so he wasn't sure. He left basketball, tried out baseball, and decided to go back to basketball. Of course, it didn't hurt that Jerry Reinsdorf was the drummer.
Well, and I actually know someone who knows the cousin of one of the guys who killed Mr. Jordan.
Right.
Actually, Jacob, you do too.
Mhm.
And they and it really was just they wanted his watch. It had nothing to do with gambling.
Mhm.
They saw
Yeah,
Jude. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they tried to say like rumors behind that, like, oh, Jordan owed a debt or whatever, and it was like, no, literally, it was just some young guys that were looking to jack, and they didn't know who they were robbing.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
heard
they,
that.
Right.
they,
They
Right.
they
really
literally
didn't
was
know
just
who
some
they
robbers.
were.
That's it. It was an unfortunate, and
You're fine.
you know, sometimes as fans, you know, they can be so quick to happen with that athlete or whatever. It's almost like nothing can just be an unfortunate happenstance anymore. You know, they had to say, oh, well, Jordan was gambling. He was owing somebody or whatever. Dude, if Jordan owed somebody, it wouldn't have been two kids. It would have been a group of men in suits, considering how much money Jordan had. You
Yeah.
know, literally, they caught this guy and they robbed him, and it went wrong, and they killed him. It was an unfortunate happenstance. Let's not add on to what's already there. But
Exactly.
Scott, really, really quick, your thoughts on this topic?
All I can tell you right now, Jordan ought to feel pretty good about this. When I covered the Colorado Rockies in the Cactus League, and I had credentials through their people. I got to know their PR staff real well. They used to love playing ping pong. It got so interesting that there was some competitive tournaments in spring training with the Rockies. I have no problem with meditation. I used to drive up A1A here and listen to music. So anytime you can relax the mind, which mine never does, but I have the luxury of going up A1A, the ocean, to do it. I'll do it. So meditation to me is okay. But I mean, maybe what part of the mindset with the Dolphins is, they're taking the ping pong tables out. You don't know if anybody's going to get hurt playing ping pong because of their competitiveness. They don't need any more injuries. They got problems already. I was joking around with Jacob, and I can tell you right now, Jacob, okay, I played over ping pong when I was at my overnight camp over at Arrowhead Ranch many years ago, like 40 some odd years ago. I told you when you can't count that I-40, 50. And I was a danger. I would drive all over the place and really get hurt. So I'm okay for meditation. That's just some teams monitor it a little bit different. So I'm playing the H card.
Scott, you made me want to
These are
start
good.
singing Ice Ice Baby.
That's funny.
I will
She wanted
say,
to sneak Vanilla Ice. Yeah, I'm going to swing it over to Jordan, and then we got to wrap up because
I
we
will
got to
say,
get Scott over to the Sports Exchange.
I will say you definitely need, something other than sports to focus on. I know, what was it, Tony Romo, when they had the week off, he went to Cancun and he got chastised for that. Yes, they ended up losing the game, but it was his way of getting out of the game. You have to do something other than focusing on the game. So I'm fine with it. If they want to go fishing, they want to meditate, they want to go on a vacation, just get away. I'm fine with it because you need to.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in the final 2 minutes. We do have to wrap up because the Sports Exchange Starship is all gassed up and ready to go to the moon. So when we wrap up here, everyone boogie on over to South Florida Tribune on YouTube or Facebook Live and check out the Sports Exchange. Scott's going to be on there. He's piloting the ship. Of course, Jacob's going to be there because he's like the resident college kid who comes home every semester and raises the friend.
I still got
He
the
is like the
for
perpetual
And
college
I believe
kid,
Jordan,
isn't he?
you're going to be on there tonight, right?
The hair.
Yep, I'm going to be on there.
All right, and Jordan Long's going to be on there as well.
Tomorrow.
I had the
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's had it for the last 20 years.
Have great hair.
Some do. I actually had a friend from high school, and he graded at like 16. So it's not out of the realm of thought.
Really?
But yeah. It's I'll talk to you about it afterwards. It's funny. But yes, and then right after the Sports Exchange, boogie back on over to Sideline Sports at 10 Eastern for the Sports Arena. Eric Wilson, Ray J. Lynn, Mike Cartenuto, Megan Price, Ty Ray, John Shear. They're gonna have the latest happenings for you. So Jen, real quick, let us know where we can find you.
So I had pretty exciting 2 days. You're going to see some articles, my first articles that I'm writing, because I was able to cover ACC Media Day for men's and women's tip-off for 2022. Really cool experience. Thank you, Fago. And you can find me on 3 Chicks in a Pod, also Chicks and Salsa. You can find me. Confidential is over for this season, I believe. Sorry, couldn't be on it last night because I promised my husband I wouldn't, and quite frankly, I was too tired. And then 11 o'clock is really late.
We're going to have a different slot next year.
You better believe it.
Yeah. And then Wednesday nights, obviously,
Inside the
Pundits Pundit.
pigskin.
Thursday nights, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, as well as Inside the Pigskin. And Sundays, not in the football season, I produce Basket Bros.
Where we talk
Love
about
you,
Bird
Jay.
and Jordan the whole time.
You talk about Bird and Jordan all the time.
We need you to stop. That's also the reason I'm glad for NFL's back. And I have my Panthers flag waving. I don't know if y'all can see it, if it's too dark or not, but I've had it up since yesterday morning.
Oh, is that Matt Rule? Is that Matt Rule Shrine?
Matt Rule, bye.
And actually, Jen's going to be on my show on Friday to actually talk about the firing and a lot of other NFL goings on with the Carolina Panthers.
And I will
Jacob,
say Steve Wilkes has already started bringing back Keep Pounding, which I love.
Good. Jacob, on to you.
I am Sunday nights with Basket Bros. Monday nights working on something. I'll let you guys know when. Tuesday nights but I will also be in January when it starts again. It'll be Megan Price's NBA Carousel. So that'll be a doubleheader. Tuesday nights during the season be confidential where I have a different time zone. Time frame. Thank God.
Thank you, JB.
Yeah.
Yes. Tuesday. Let's see. Wednesday nights is this doubleheader. This doubleheader, it is this show and it is the Sports Exchange. Thursday nights, I am separate from Sideline Sports. I am with the TJ Sanson with Yin and Yang. Which
it's a great show.
You have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched the episode you sent me. I forgot to give you feedback, but yes.
Good. We do this. We talk different things from psychology to politics to films, everything. So we go different stuff on that. So and then we're also making a movie called The Awakening. So we just worked on the proof of concept. We keep going right now. So I'm staying busy.
Yeah. And Scott, on to you, man.
All right. Well, you know what? Find me on Twitter at Tribune South. It's at Tribune South. Please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. You know, whether you go to our website or youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune, hit the old subscribe button. And of course, I like being on these shows here. You'll see all of our shows through the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, videos and all, as well as the shows. And of course, Basket Bros, as well as Pundits Pundit. The list goes on and on. You don't have the time, but that's the Cliff Notes version because I had too much time with my other animated topics. So I'll take what I can provide here just to make up for my long-windedness earlier.
And finally, Jordan, on to you, man.
So you can find me on Mondays once the NBA season starts. I'll be on the Megan Price's NFL Carousel. On Tuesdays, I'm on 108 Stitches with Scott and Will and Chris. Let's see, Thursdays, the NFL Carousel, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, representing the Denver Broncos. Hopefully I'll have better news to talk about the next few weeks. Unfortunately, season hasn't gone the way I had hoped. I have a blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays at sports-scoop.com. And then I have my own show on Fridays that I post on the network on Saturdays. Since for Jen will be on this week.
Woohoo!
Under review, and basically I talk about national sports headlines as well as Colorado sports.
All right, awesome. And yes, we have a whole lot to offer at Sideline Sports Network. Of course, right here on Wednesdays, real quick, right here on Wednesdays, Confidential. We'll be back next season. I think we're actually doing a one-off episode after the World Series, a little 30-minute one to talk about it, so stay tuned on that one. Also, Gauntlet, Fridays, 8 Eastern, and Basket Bros, Sundays at 7:30 Eastern. 7:30 Eastern. They're trying to get you out of there before Sunday Night Football. So for Jen, Jacob, Scott, and Jordan Long, I'm Denzel Snipes. We'll see you next week. Boogie on over to YouTube and tune into the South Florida Tribune because the Sports Exchange is next. See ya.